I've been making games since I was 9. I started on the Spectrum 48K and the 64 Amiga, but professionally since 2005.
And I've only been making games for about 3 years since I started work with Jake on Regents of Solitaire.
That's quite a long time, really.
Yeah, I really like making historical games and writing things set in the past, but obviously you've got to have a really fun protagonist. And this character is someone who's an aristocrat, and she's got quite a lot of rules and regulations about how she can live her life. So a really good way of being able to break out of that, a little bit like Superman putting on his cape in the phone box, is to put on a costume and become someone else. So we've got a character who becomes a highwaywoman at night so that she can go out and right wrongs and swashbuckle, fight people, get involved with all sorts of shady characters that as her aristocratic daytime self she wouldn't normally be allowed to interact with.
So ShadowHand's an RPG card game, and it's mashing together two genres which haven't ever been mashed together before, which is solitaire and turn-based combat. So you use solitaire to fight enemies, and so instead of normally in turn-based combat you roll dice or a random number generator decides what happens. But in this game you play solitaire and you have some influence over the cards to decide how well you defeat the enemy. This is a type of solitaire called gold solitaire, so it's not like Windows solitaire where you just get these sort of big boring stacks. This has got all kind of different layouts and you have to clear them by clearing one card higher or lower than the foundation.
This game is ridiculously historically accurate. I'm quite a nerd when it comes to research, and I've spent a lot of time looking at every single detail of life in the 1770s as pertains to being a highwaywoman. So we've looked at the costumes, we've looked at the weapons, we've been ourselves to locations and taken photographs of various places that have then made it into the game. So for example, today I was working on a level based in some stables. Those are actually real stables in Dunster Castle in North Somerset that would have been around in the 1770s, and they've got the genuine stalls that the horses were in. So we really tried to be as accurate as possible, and that's a lot of work, but also it makes a really great game world that's really coherent. All the colours work together, the scaling all works together, the costumes work with the backgrounds, and everything just fits.
So unlike normal solitaire, which is just cards, we've got stuff like fancy abilities. So this one charges across the screen and blasts off cards. There's locks and keys, and there's like loads of other stuff. You've got things called jokers which you can put down, which allow you to sort of clear whatever card you want. Yeah, there's loads of different abilities. So there are puzzle levels in the game like this, and then there's combat levels where you end up dueling against various different enemies.
Working with Jake has been interesting. So he's my husband as well as being my partner in making games. So what's been really good is that I've learned a lot about game design from him. He's got a huge amount of experience, but it's obviously been a bit challenging the fact that he's my manager as well as being my husband, so I've had to be as professional as I can be. There have been times when I've had to listen to him giving me guidance about how to do certain things. But at the same time I've had to bring some of my own skills in, so obviously I had a long career as a science writer before I got into making games, so I do know quite a lot about writing and editing, researching, things like that are actually my strengths, so I've brought them in, and I think together we work quite well as a team. We complement each other, and he's definitely said that I've given him some good ideas for the game design as well, so I think we work quite well together.
So the game was developed in Blitz Max, which no one's ever heard of, but it's basically a sort of object-oriented basic language that sits on top of C++ libraries, so it compiles and runs as if it's a C++ game, but I can sort of modify the underlying code as well if I want to, and it uses DirectX or OpenGL. So it's a very easy language to sort of do things quickly, though my publisher would disagree. But it's good for me, it's really fun to sort of make games in. So this is the automated testing function for ShadowHand. So what it's doing now is the AI is controlling the player and the enemy, and it's making decisions as if you were playing in a fairly decent manner, and testing out the outcome of the battle. So I can use this to balance all the different weapons and outfits and the enemy fights to make sure they're playable and beatable. You see it's giving me an output at the end. This is actually the slow version. the one I use properly runs like 500 tests in a couple of minutes, but it doesn't output anything, so it's not as fun to watch as this. So another reason the game's taken so long is because I am perfectionist now, and basically I spend too long fiddling around with minor details that probably no one will ever notice, but I notice them and it matters to me, so that's why I fix them. So I go into the art and I sort of like put buttons in the right place, or put the right fingers and thumbs around weapons, or make the firing arm go forward. I do stuff like make sure the sound effects are in tune with the music, and you know, lots of little details like that that just take ages basically. And probably I could just slap the art and sound in and push the game out, but it wouldn't feel right to me, so that's why I do it.
I think the patience and how long term the project is. I'm quite a short term sort of person who quite likes to see quick results, so for me working on a project that takes several years is quite elaborate and involved. It's very satisfying at the end, but some of the stages in the middle where things seem very unfinished and very complicated is quite tough to get your head around.
So I'm a coin collector, and one of the things that I do when I'm working on this game in Regency is I've actually bought a coin from the time period. So this is a 1749 crown, and actually I think it's a half crown, and it's silver, solid silver, and I keep that on my desk while I develop the game, just as a sort of memento of the time period, and just to think that people had this around the time we're making our game. So, you know, maybe a highwayman had that, maybe some, you know, corrupt magistrate, you know, maybe someone spent it in an inn for a night, and it's just kind of interesting, and it adds extra vibe to me while I make the game. So ShadowHand is set in southwest England, which is where we live, and we've scouted lots of locations to put in the game. Some of them are made up and some of them are real. So this is Glastonbury Tor, formerly known as Avalon, and our character goes there for a quest. So that's Glastonbury Tor, pretty local to us, and it's nice to have it in the game. So this is the stables at Dunster Castle. We went there and took a photo because they had these cool Georgian pillars which they would tie the horses to, and we took a nice photo, gave it to the artist to use as a reference, and they've done a really good job. And this is the ostler you meet who you have a boxing fight with to get information from him. The hardest thing working on the game is just the fact it's taken so long, and we've run out of money, you know, the old indie story, and maintaining motivation through that time period. There's always a sort of dip in the middle, but now we're nearing the end, I'm super motivated to get it done.